Hey, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam, and tonight I'm going to talk about forgiveness. Now, if you're listening to meditation stuff out there or doing spiritual practice or just self-improvement practice, you've probably come across this idea that forgiveness is one of those silver bullets that can really propel your progress, and it can really start to clean your system out of old baggage that needs to be dropped. So it is a fantastic modality or a fantastic tool, but it suffers from one big trap, which I will try to describe in this video. So this video is an attempt to try to capture what it is that forgiveness really stands for, so that you don't fall into the trap of trying to make yourself forgive, because as you will as you will see, that can undermine the very progress that you're trying to make. So you could speak of attempts at forgiveness in perhaps 4 levels that I kind of thought of. And so level 0 is I do not forgive, not right. I hold to my grudges. And maybe they make me a sad and angry and resentful person, but my ego is too fragile, and my understanding of how things really work is too basic for me to understand that there's no need to carry these things around. So you hold on to them, and you're maybe even proud. This level is characterized typically by righteous indignation, the need to prove that you were injured, whether physically or mostly emotionally, and that you are right and the other person is wrong. So this is this is level 0. I presume anyone watching this channel or giving me a call for coaching is already beyond the understanding of holding to your grudges, and probably actively trying to get rid of their grudges and to greater or lesser degree of success. Then you will have level number 1, and in level number 1, people begin to try to forgive. So over here, you've understood that holding on to these grudges is starting to feel very uncomfortable. You may be overly stressed. You may have trouble sleeping. Maybe your mind just keeps running in circles about the latest argument that you had with some colleague at the office or with your spouse, whatever it may be. So it starts to reach a point where things are fairly uncomfortable, and you begin to read, I don't know, pop psychology or self-improvement stuff, and say, well, forgiveness is a big element. Try to forgive. And I call it try, I don't call it succeed, because this is a level in which the typical attempt will be try to go cold turkey into just dropping your resentment, or finding reasons of why you should forgive and why the other person should be forgiven. So these attempts are typically basic. They are typically not effective, and if they are effective, they are incredibly inefficient. So people in this camp would be of the philosophy that time heals everything, right? So you just leave it to time, and then as you get distracted with other things and your life starts to progress, your grudges tend to sort of fade away and then be replaced by others, because the mind mechanics that created the first ones are still there. So you'll be in this cycle, and in these 2 steps there is no improvement. And as time goes by and age goes by, these grudges become very cemented, and you're likely also to start suffering from psychosomatic symptoms, because your body is paying a toll for this bag of bricks that you're carrying around. Now, then you have level number 2, and this is what you could call the sophisticated seeker that either is doing psychology or is doing New Age stuff, right? Psychology or New Age. And So this is a very, very broad spectrum here. It's everything is included. You will have everything from, I don't know, psychoanalysis, Freudian style, to Jungian therapy, to a bit more sophisticated sort of behavioral stuff. You may have some, mind-body things like, I don't know, the tapping or whatever. Some may be a little bit more superficial than others. To my mind, in the camp that joins these two, you can find a very rich and potentially very effective area to work with. But as you go into New Age, you start to go into a morass of ritualistic, pseudoscientific, and ineffective, fuzzy techniques, which may include, being in a bonfire, writing the name of your worst enemies and throwing them into the fire while singing Kumbaya or things of that kind. So, hard psychology is very dry, very mental. New Age in its ugly form is extremely unreliable, fluffy, and both of these are ineffective. Somewhere in the middle of these two, which is where Meditation Amsterdam also tries to create a niche, you have a happy medium that uses mind-body and uses what you could call mystical understandings supported by neuroscience. So that's a great place to be in, and very likely to drive change, real deep lasting and profound change. And then you have level number 3. And level number 3 is by far the most superior level, in which I would call it no need. No need. So no need comes in two varieties. The most advanced variety is that in which nothing can hurt you anymore. So that's like Teflon Don. It's like you have someone who just is completely impervious to any psychological injury. So always happy, right? The Buddha or whatever. But even before you get there, you have a clear distinction between levels 1 and 2 and basic level 3. Because see, you can't be untouchable off the bat. There's a process to getting there. Kind of what like Morpheus said to Neo when he was training him to go back into the Matrix. He says, you won't need to dodge bullets because you'll be on a completely different level, right? When you're ready, you won't have to dodge the bullets. But being ready is the question, right? When are you ready to just be impervious to bullets? And that sits for me in the basic no need level, because what this level has, which both levels 1 and 2 do not have, and level 0 doesn't even consider, is the acceptance of not having forgiven yet. In other words, so long as you are trying to forgive, and so long as you are using, in a very crude way, or in a more sophisticated or the most sophisticated way, so long as you are trying, there is a very, very high likelihood that you are not okay with the fact that you haven't forgiven, which is the problem to begin with. So we can call this the big A, that stands for acceptance. Yeah. And here's the irony of this. And this is why this one is way superior to whatever you may be doing to forgive. Acceptance is forgiveness. Yeah. So, in other words, on this level, you have, through trying and failing and going through the process, understood that the very first step that you need to take in order to experience forgiveness, which is also the very last step, is to be okay with whatever state of mind you are right now. These two imply discontent with your current state of mind. You are thinking something is wrong and you need to do something to change it. Now, it's correct that something is suboptimal or not as harmonious as it could be, but rather than going from discontent to content, you need to move from discontent to acceptance of the discontent and acceptance of the non-forgiveness and the grudge. Acceptance that is what you are holding in your mind right now. Fully coming to terms with saying, right now I have not forgiven. Right now, as at this very moment, I hold a grudge and I give my system full permission to hold that grudge. And for the permission to hold it for as long as it thinks it's necessary. But with one caveat. While you will allow it to be there and fully embrace it, you are not going to feed it. In fact, you are going to observe it. Now, that goes more to techniques of how to resolve it, which sit in step number 2. But what I'm trying to say is that on level 3, the point into which you start to use sophisticated techniques is not a point of rejection to your lack of forgiveness. It is a point of acceptance of your lack of forgiveness, which does something really funny, because when you accept your lack of forgiveness, then suddenly forgiveness starts to kind of happen automatically, without you having to try to forgive. That's why this one is the crudest. You can't try to forgive. You can't make yourself like somebody. Your best chances of liking someone is to accept and fully come to terms with the fact that you dislike them. Something funny happens, and it may have happened to some of you listening to this. There was a person that you truly disliked, that you and they disliked you in return, and the moment you both come to terms with that, you end up really liking each other, right? Why? Because to try to like one another is like trying to fall in love. It's just like, it doesn't work that way. You are because love is the lack of trying. Love is being one with the current moment and the current situation without any reserves. So, and the same is forgiveness. So that's why love, forgiveness, gratefulness, being grateful are all, on the one hand, techniques, but they are not really techniques. They are also the end product that you want to get to. So that they need to be applied from the beginning, ironically. And to do that, you must come to terms and fully accept wherever you are at any given moment, so that you become truly like Teflon, right? So it's like Donald Trump, right? Every insult just bounces straight off. But in order to be there, you need to fully come to terms with what you are. Donald Trump seems to be pretty content with who it is, right? There's no conflict there. The guy is just what he is, and therefore insults don't impact. They can't hit him. So in order to get there, of course, that's the thing. Now there's another caveat to this, and that's one of the catch-22s. Having understood this process, you may try to pretend that you're already at the very highest stage. And that would be a grave mistake, because part of the way to get there is the exploration and the messing up. Now, having heard this already puts you many steps ahead of this entire game, because you start to realize that any gimmicks that you're trying in order to either forgive, any gimmicks that you are trying to deal with bad emotions, should be met with the question, what's the urge to try to forgive? What's the problem? Why would you want to get rid of bad emotions? Why are they a problem? And who is it that wants to get rid of them in the first place? But that's even higher question. But the question of why get rid of them, right? If the question is coming from I want to forgive or I want to get rid of them, it implicitly says whatever it is happening right now is not okay. And that is the problem to begin with. So whenever you find yourself trying to improve, trying to forgive or be grateful or whatever, it needs to come from a place of fully accepting wherever you are at that point in time, so that your efforts don't get undermined. If you do it from a place of non-acceptance, it's like the man trying to bury his own shadow. He keeps digging, and the shadow, and he keeps, piling dirt there, and the shadow can't be buried, where all he needs to do is step away from the hole, and the shadow is gone away from the hole. So that's the catch-22. So it's good to understand these different levels. It's good to understand that it is acceptance that needs to be exercised from the get-go to your lack of forgiveness before forgiveness can present itself. And it is good to understand that it may not be a good idea to pretend that you have accepted, or to pretend that you weren't even hurt, because, your system is going to very quickly resent that and tell you otherwise. It's going to go like, no, you were pissed off and you know it. And, it's going to try to keep coming up, almost like when you take a water polo or a volleyball, and you try to squeeze it on the water. The more you try to repress it, the more the more effort you try to do, and eventually, when it shoots up, it just goes right through. So you don't want to do that. Now, I might be making other videos, and have made some other videos in the past about that area that sits between purely psychological means and purely esoteric means in body work, breath work, mindfulness, and meditation, because I think that that's the Goldilocks zone, which, if correctly applied, can allow you to feel acceptance more immediately, if I may use the word, even if it's mild in the beginning. Hint, it has to do with embodiment, okay? And it has to do with presence and equanimity and focus, as usual. But this is a great area to explore. At any rate, this is maybe a bit of a preamble to that. I wanted to touch on the subject. I was reviewing the videos on the channel. It's funny that I had not talked about forgiveness before. But before going into techniques of how to forgive, it's enormously important to understand that what you are trying to do is reducing resistance to what is, from the get-go, through acceptance of your non-ability to forgive. Yeah. So you need to accept at every level, at every step, there is full acceptance of whatever is happening. And when you do that, you realize that what you are applying at every step is the very same thing that you will apply at the end of the road, because the means cannot be different from the ends. It simply doesn't work that way. I hope that helps. I hope it gives you a little bit of context. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, or just give me a shout, and we can go into more sort of technique-based discussions about how to forgive, how to make your life a little bit cleaner, a little bit happier, and much more energetic than it might be today if this area is giving you trouble. So thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more. Cheers.